Started, maybe just 2 seconds or so, 1, 2. We'll keep admitting people as they come in, but we're thrilled today. Today's a big day in the life and history of the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator. It is the launch of our Cohort 3 application. So thank you all for joining. We are just over a year old. So in a little over a year, we have been able to accomplish 2 cohorts, one of course in person, December 2019, with a beautiful demo day and just a great 200-person live event where our startups pitched. And then cohort 2's demo day in July, which was a little different. It was a virtual, but that enabled us to have a reach of over 450 unique viewers from 12 countries around the world. So we can say we're an international accelerator now. And so who knows, maybe a year from now, we'll be saying that we're a lunar accelerator. That may be a little tip off to a few things we will be announcing. I know you all have been joining us for the 3 prior events in this series. So I'll briefly talk about the ION, but really the spotlight here today is the launch of the Cohort 3 application. So give me a second just to share my screen and we'll get right along to our presentation. All right, you should be able to see my screen. Today is part 4, sustainability and you. So no one escapes my bad puns, but today, as we said, is Cohort 3's application launch. So we're super excited for that. The ION obviously opening in the first quarter of 2021. We can't wait to move into our new home where it truly will be the capital of Houston's 16-acre innovation district. So we're very excited for that. Our vision and mission, if you may recall, we've been starting every presentation in this series with our vision and mission because both ground us in the work that we do. At our heart, we are accelerating innovation and connecting communities. And we do this by anchoring, activating, and accelerating the innovation ecosystem through partnerships, pathways, and programs that create opportunities to advance and sustain resilient economic growth in Houston. We have 4 main project goals, and I won't necessarily read them all, but you can kind of read them on the screen. We're strengthening the economic resiliency of Houston. We do this by attracting and retaining talent, fostering an inclusive and welcoming neighborhood, and creating that vibrant, connected, and timeless place. Of course, we've drilled this down into 3 main workforce development goals. So a lot of the diversifying of the tech workforce, the diversifying of the tech entrepreneurship, and the strengthening of the community businesses results ultimately in a more resilient economy here in Houston. We bring 4 types of communities together: the corporate innovators, the academic network of the ION, our community members through community engagement and workforce development, and then our startups and entrepreneurs. And as we bring those communities together, we create a sweet spot of collaboration among them. We're of course very thankful and grateful to our corporate partners and sponsors, Chevron, and of course Microsoft being one of the founding sponsors of the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator. I mentioned the ION Academic Network earlier. So it's a network of 10 of Houston's 2- and 4-year academic institutions. And what we are hopeful is that in the coming months, especially with Cohort 3, we are drawing out that talent from any one of these 10 institutions, as well as more in the Houston-Galveston area. For community engagement and workforce development, again, you can kind of read through the talking points, but we have a robust portfolio of partners whom we accomplish our community engagement work with. And that's the real takeaway here, is that the ION is a place where our partners come together to create something where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So 2 kind of big announcements, which if you've been attending the prior events, you're already familiar with these announcements, but the ION Accelerator Hub which houses the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator, Div Inc., and the Rice Alliance Clean Energy Accelerator, and of course done in partnership with Vision Galveston. So this enables us to expand our Houston-Galveston pipeline so we can reach a broader range of startups that are solving sustainability challenges. The Aerospace Innovation Hub at the ION with our partners NASA and Div Inc. will enable us to support and develop regional minority business enterprises by offering community events, education and training, and an accelerator program focused on aerospace innovation. So the core message today is we're celebrating the launch of Cohort 3's application. Just some brief talking points on the way the accelerator is structured. We are part of the ION's Accelerator Hub, as I mentioned earlier, and what we do is we run the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator training and program in parallel with the ION's Aerospace Innovation Hub Accelerator. So this means that we get a broader area or space in which startups that are all kind of tackling different problems, but all can benefit from learning from each other, they get to have a shared space. And so we create a system where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. The accelerator itself is a 3-month virtual program. So Cohort 3 will be executed virtually. We offer one-on-one office hours for startups with MVPs, minimum viable products. And these office hours can range anywhere from office hours with our staff at the ION, with our City of Houston stakeholders, with other cities' stakeholders. That's something new that we've been asked to kind of expand and take on with this cohort, which is super exciting. The ION's industry partners. So we really provide that one-on-one office hour time when startups can have that space with anybody that they're seeking to meet, including investors. We also have, after the program phase, which also includes different types of educational experiences, lunch and learns, Pop-Tarts and pitches, which I will maybe let Courtney talk a little bit about in just a second. We have our pilot phase, which comes after the programming phase. So startups, after that 3 months of programs, which only meet Monday through Wednesday, so we don't go the full week because we know you're all engaged in your kind of day jobs with the startups or whatever that may be. We have a pilot phase where you are actively seeking pilots for your technology. So of course, we don't take any equity. That's important to us. And then we offer a robust mentor network. We have a bunch of our mentors here, so we're really happy to see them. Also subject matter experts that will come and do these lunch and learns, as well as the ION Corporate Partner Network. So this was Cohort 1. We have a few speakers from Cohort 1 to talk to us today. We focused on transportation, resiliency, and mobility. Cohort 2 focused on air quality, water purification, and clean tech. And we have a few speakers as well that will be sharing their experiences a little later. And then Cohort 3, which focuses on sustainability, aligns right to the Resilient Houston strategy and the Climate Action Plan. So obviously here we are today at our application launch event. And we have it set up where we will walk you through what that application process looks like. And then I'll talk a little bit about the Resilient Houston strategy and Climate Action Plan. So super fast. You can kind of read on the screen here a little bit about me, but I am Christine Galeb. I'm the Senior Director of Programs at the ION, and I direct the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator. So I will turn it over to my teammate, who is just about one of the most fantastic people I've ever worked with. And I don't really offer praise that high that often. So Courtney Cogdill has been the greatest asset to our team. We have a small but mighty team, but I'll turn it over to her to share a little bit about herself and then walk us through the application.
Thank you, Christine. And I will say it's probably our teamwork that makes both of us so amazing. So I'll put it that way, that very much there is a lot of love in our small and mighty team. But I still can't believe it's been a year. I think if you would have told us when we were launching Cohort 1 that we'd be launching Cohort 3 in the midst of a pandemic virtually, I probably would have just laughed at you and been like, okay, Christine, sure. What are you on right now? But you know what? Cohort 2 kicked off, and I think it's just we're just going up from there and now to infinity and beyond with all of our partnerships we have going. And we're gonna have puns this morning. So it's dreary outside, but we're gonna brighten it up in here today. So as Christine mentioned, I am Courtney Cogdill. I am the program manager for the Accelerator Hub. So all things Accelerator, all things happening in that area, I will be the go-to person. I may not be able to help you with everything, but I will find someone that can, and that's the important part. So I've been with the ION since right before we kicked off Cohort 1, and it just has been a wild ride ever since. So I still remember talking about all the programming with Christine in our little office on the temporary floor over downtown. And she mentioned Pop-Tarts and pitches. And so you'll kind of see a theme that all of our events kind of revolve around food because we feel food brings people together. So we have muffins and discussions, we have tacos and talks, we have Pop-Tarts and pitches. I mean, really, you can sell us on any food related event. It's really great. But we have structured our programming to really engage with not only and help build that community within the cohort itself, but engage with the greater community and the innovation ecosystem here in Houston. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm going to walk everyone through the application. So you'll see here that it is in slide room. So I'll go ahead and Christine, if you wouldn't mind sharing the link, I have lost my chat box.
You got it. I will put it in the chat box right now.
Perfect. So Christine's going to go ahead and send you that link. So what it's going to ask you to do, it'll bring you to our landing page, and you'll see here that our Cohort 3 application. So we're using Slide Room, and I feel very fancy using Slide Room. I like it a whole lot. So we've been able to detail here everything about the application. It'll start after South by Southwest. We'll have our demo day in June, so that 3 months of programming, and talk a little bit about what the ecosystem and what we're going to be providing. So when you hit the apply now, you'll see that I went ahead and I created a account for myself here. And so it's just going to say, welcome back, all that, and it'll bring you to our application. So what I'm going to do, instead of beginning the application, you can actually preview it and go along here. So we're of course going to be collecting that basic email, name, company website, all of that. But as Christine mentioned, our focus is that resiliency and climate action plan. So we ask you to identify at least 3 goals within those plans that you are looking to solve. So that of course goes in part with our connections and our relationships we have with the City of Houston, the Department of Innovation, and everything that the resiliency plan is working towards to really meet the goals of what Houston needs to solve. So part of that is because while we know there's so much cool new tech out there, we want tech that can actually be implemented and useful to the people that call Houston home. So we of course ask, like Christine mentioned, we search for MVPs. So we want to know where the current state of your solution or product is, what partnerships you're looking, resources. We want to make sure that what we offer can fit what you need. And then what kind of partnerships do you feel how that fits into your future? Of course, we want to know how you heard about us and make sure that we have those tracking to make sure that you continue to hear about us. And lastly, just acknowledging that we can do this because of course we use our amazing network of mentors and everyone within the City of Houston and our team at the ION to review a lot of these applications. So we do request a few attachments. One is a pitch deck. So keep in mind that this is something that we want to see where you're at. What are you telling the community? What are you telling investors? How are you pitching your company? And that also gives us an idea of what's the real work that you're needing and saying, and what is your solution and what's the framework there. The next is we ask for 2 references. And these references can be mentors. They can be people you have worked with. They can be people that you've piloted your solution with, or someone who is possibly on your board. We just ask that you provide 2 references, kind of giving us an outside view from someone, just like you would at a job. You submit these references, and we kind of want to know where you're standing, where you're engaging with the community, and how we can possibly engage further with you. And lastly, we would like to see an executive summary, or if you have a video, maybe a quick 67 sizzle reel or anything like that about your company that you have on YouTube or Vimeo. We also gave you a link to put there if you had any additional information that you wanted to share with us, or any other YouTube or Vimeo things you wanted to let us know. So it's really robust. You have the ability to come in and check on the application, review it. You'll get an automated email saying that it has been received. And then our goal is to we're having this open. I believe the deadline is the 1st or 2nd week of January. So you have plenty of time to go through this and really make sure you're reading that sustainability plan and the climate action plan and the resiliency. I mean, a lot of work went into writing those. So we want to make sure that you're getting that fun writing or that fun reading down on the weekends, and really making sure that you're addressing the issues that Houston residents are facing today. So this is it. This is where our application is. This is where it lives. This is where all the other applications, as Christine mentioned, for the aerospace accelerator that we're going to have, that will also live here. So it's really great. If you haven't used Slide Room before, I think you're really going to love the engagement there. So Christine, I will kick it back to you, unless there's any. I saw the chat kind of going off, so I'm sure she was answering some questions, but I'll be here if you want to ask anything in the chat.
I think we're doing so well that nobody has questions at this time, which is fine. We do have a session, part of our talk after we have our cohort 1 and 2 participants and mentors share a little bit. We will have a Q&A, so you know that your questions will be answered. But what we'd like to do now is I will share my screen. I just chatted these links into the chat box. I'd love to kind of do, not a deep dive because that's going to be your homework, but just kind of maybe a broad overview of the Resilient Houston strategy and the climate action plan. And, you know, Courtney and I, we sit by the pool in the summer and everybody else pulls up their beach reading. We pull up the Resilient Houston and climate action plan. So this is now your chance to join us in really sinking our teeth into 2 documents that have been prepared with a level of such detail and also with a calling and call to action for us all to participate in some way. So I will share my screen and I'll walk us through kind of what we're talking about when we talk about the Resilient Houston and Climate Action Plan. So this is the Resilient Houston strategy, and you know, you can kind of scroll through the document, but it's outlined with 18 targets, 18 goals, and these are pretty high level, right? So as we go deeper into what these goals really mean, there are 5 chapters that kind of break this all apart. But what I wanted to walk through is just an example. Obviously, how to read the Resilient Houston strategy will be helpful for us. But I wanted to walk us through just a little bit when we get to chapter 1, prepared and thriving Houstonians. So we break this down into 3 goals. We'll support Houstonians to be prepared for an uncertain future. We will expand access to wealth building and employment opportunities. We'll improve safety and well-being for all Houstonians. So these are very broad goals. And so what we're not interested in, if you just say, oh yeah, goal 3, we improve safety. Right, well, that's you don't tell me how, you don't tell me where you are in that process, you don't tell me what the exact alignment is. So it'll be very hard for us, as well as our selection committee, to truly understand what you're exactly doing. So here we get a little more of the description about what the goal is, what the chapter is, and then we get to the details. So ensure Houstonians have the information, skills, and capacity to prepare for any emergency. Okay, so now we're getting closer to reading the Resilient Houston strategy through the lens of sustainability. And as you get a little deeper into this, you can read up on some of the statistics, on some of the research, and you can propose your solution that perhaps maybe works on flood insurance coverage, right? And maybe you've developed an app or some type of platform that helps helps citizens in areas that are highly flooded. Maybe you've helped them identify different types of flood insurance providers. And so this app, you would basically take this paragraph here and align your application to it. Maybe you have a system that works with vulnerable populations during disaster recovery. And you can read this goal and you can say, well, this aligns right to 1.6. Here's how my product matches meeting 1.6's goals. And so as you read through this, you'll begin to realize that there are very specific actions where you can take your product or solution and link up from where your product or solution is to the Resilient Houston strategy by describing in your paragraphs what exactly you're doing and how you're meeting these goals. So that basically will be how the selection committee looks at the applications. They'll ask questions like, did this startup address the goal, right? Did it actually spell out the number of the goal and the goal itself? Did this startup describe how their solution helps us meet that goal? So questions like that, pretty transparent, where we're not trying to trick anyone up here. Same thing with the climate action plan. So there are 4 focus areas, 3 goals each. And you're already in your mind, you're going to say, yes, there's so much overlap between Resilient Houston and climate action. And that's the great part, because if you can begin to look at the goals and show us where the overlap is and how your product or solution meets those overlapping areas, then you're going to have a stronger application because you're hitting on multiple goals from both documents at the same time. So maybe say you are part of the energy transition and you say, okay, grow Houston's investment in renewable and resilient energy. And you walk us through exactly how your startup is doing that as it aligns to this section of the climate action plan. Maybe you realize, wow, my startup is really deep in ensuring safe and cost-effective long-term disposal capacity. And that relates to materials management. That could be met through these 3 things that my startup does. And here's where we are in terms of existing pilots that we may have that already address these 3 things. So a bunch of ways to answer. Sorry, if you're not muted, please mute because I need people to hear this. Thank you. If you in your application, your main goal is to specifically call out the goals and then talk through how your startup is meeting those goals, because that will help the selection committee route your application to the right type of problem for which they're looking for solutions. So I know that was really quick and it was very high level. We do have upcoming office hours throughout the month of November. If you would like to sign up for those, we'll get you the link in the chat box. But we're here to help and be supportive. So I know it was high level, but do take the time to read through the documents, because those are our roadmaps that Marissa and Lara have done and their teams, and of course the mayor and Jesse. I saw Jesse on this call. This would not be possible without the direction of Jesse Bounds, Nate Thompson, and his team in the Office of Innovation. So they just actually hired a 3rd person, Janae, who is with their team to help us as well. So we are very blessed to have a city that is receptive to the startup community and to hearing our solutions for some of the greatest challenges really that our generation is facing. So thank you to the City of Houston. Obviously, thank you to all of you for listening. I will take a break now. I will stop talking, but I will turn it over to a few people from cohort 1 and 2 who we thought we would kind of showcase and spotlight their story, because you can hear Courtney and you can hear myself talk all day long, but nothing is going to be as powerful as hearing it from the actual participants themselves. So on that note, I will turn it over. I don't know if Dean is here yet. We can check the chat box real fast.
I didn't see him here yet,
He might not be here yet.
Unless he's using the CIA name today. I don't see him over there.
I don't see him. So maybe we'll hop on over to Samantha first.
Hi, y'all. Oh, can you see me?
We sure
Yes.
can.
Oh, it's weird. I can't see you guys, but I'm gonna roll with this. Here we go. Hey, well, first of all, apologies for the crazy hair. For any of you competing also for the DoD SBIRs, I feel your pain, and also had an alarm clock set every 60 minutes last night. Pro is if anyone is applying, it is extended now for another 9 days, so we can all get some sleep. But yeah, so I'm here today to talk about our experience with the ION. For context, my name is Samantha. I'm an Air Force reservist on the weekends, and during the week, I have the pleasure of serving as a co-founder and catalyst for Re3D. And I do that alongside Charlotte, who's also on this call today, who is our community ambassador. Re3D is a 3D printing company. We make large, affordable, industrial 3D printers. And by large, we mean like the size of a toilet up to the size of a shipping container. Which is why we were up all night last night, by trying to get funding. It's been a real hoot. We're a spinoff of Engineers Without Borders, NASA Johnson Space Center, and part of where we have the shared ethos with ION is we really believe in the ability to make and problem solve affordably with the hope of creating jobs. Now, another way that we make 3D printing accessible is by going a step further and thinking about the material that the 3D printer consumes. And rather than just using the rope-like material, the filament you may have seen that oftentimes is very unsustainably extruded and shipped around the world, we sought to replace that by allowing you to print directly from particles like pellets, which make a lot of the plastic objects around us. Or even ground up plastic. So we saw that as a way to print from garbage. So now you can make big affordable things anywhere in the world from trash. So that's where we aligned with the ION. Now we have 3 locations. I'm here today in Austin, Texas, and also spent time in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where we have an outpost to do applied research, because we can't think of a better case study to look at creating jobs and printing things independently than on an island that also has to think about disaster response and resiliency, and whose landfills are closing in 1 to 2 years. So rather than shipping their garbage away, we're hoping the manufacturing companies there can use it to make things that have value to the community. And then Charlotte, who's also on and typing into chat, I think, she is at our Houston factory. So being a spinoff of NASA, we're across the street in Clear Lake. So we're representing the southern community that's annexed of ION. And as a social enterprise, we think it's really important to help people not only get access to the printers, but to learn how to print. So Charlotte would love to schedule you for a virtual tour. We do them monthly, and also provide workshops as we think about how we as a social enterprise committed to sustainability and new job creation, a lot of the same tenets as ION, better integrate with the community. So Charlotte does a fabulous job of doing that full time, and has also been just phenomenal in helping us think through how we can work with the community on the COVID response, providing PPE both to doctors as well as now small businesses, with Impact Hub and our campaign called PPE for the People. So around the time of COVID, coincidentally, and Charlotte taking on all of this big effort to make PPE and figuring out how we take all of our in-person content online, we had the honor of participating in the ION, which was really great because you know, I think as a open source, socially driven manufacturing company that's bootstrapped, maybe the things that made us unique might become more common now, but in times of crisis and during the pandemic as a small business, it's, you know, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed and isolated. And yet we had this whole new community of peers we got to meet who cared about the same things that we did and could help make strategic introductions to other groups. So, you know, we've shamelessly leaned on ION for intros to look at, you know, how we can do pilots with the city and the community, writing letters of support for grants, like the one I was working on all night last night. And also just thinking about, you know, how we're really responsible with the limited resources we have so that we can grow as a city of Houston, and sustainability and climate action grows as a theme too. So we are the big 3D printer company that prints for garbage. To wrap this up, we care about people. Charlotte is in Houston. She would love to give you a tour, and she speaks slower than me, which is great. And connect with you to learn more about the problems you're solving, because as a broad-based technology, you know, we see all of you as being part of the same ecosystem that we are, and we're in this together, and we want to see, you know, open source or socially driven or sustainably focused companies, especially in hardware, continue to thrive and grow despite the pandemic. And the only way we're going to do that is by convening these types of communities globally as we think about a different and better society. Charlotte, throw something in chat if I missed anything.
Oh, Jesse with the alliterative turning trash into treasure. So Jesse Bounds has got your back as well. So Samantha, that was
trademark
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
That's actually the name of a campaign we have going with the Habitat for Humanity Restore right now, where we're printing things for garbage for them. But yeah, you know, it's not trademark. I do have a talk with USPTO today, so I'm going to bring that up.
There you go. So that was Re3D was a startup in our cohort 2, and they have done just a real phenomenal job, like Samantha was saying. So lots of good stuff coming in from Samantha, from Charlotte, from Jesse. But let's now turn it over to a cohort 1 member, Ryan Alexander Thomas. You are up. But you got to unmute yourself.
There it is. Yeah, it was bound to happen. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Alexander Thomas. I am the co-founder and CEO of Humanity. Essentially, we enable organizers to coordinate and crowdsource community building, supply chains, and resource networks with our unique social marketplace platform. Similar to the ION, I feel like we were selected, you know, because like the ION, we share the same values. We inherently believe humans are wired to do good and seek continuous improvements in their communities. And so I think the ION recognized that it was our mission to make community building easy and effective through everyday acts of kindness, which is why I really resonate and connect with a lot of the people there, because with cohort 1, you had a lot of different technologies focused around improving either the citizen experience or making city operations much better. And so I have a few slides I'd like to share. I was hoping to be able to have sort of a slideshow of some of the things that we've done, but I'm having a little bit of trouble getting my my situation to work here. So can I share my screen?
Yes, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, here we go. Now let's see if I can, you know, when you do it, you test it and it's good to go. And then when it's time, okay. All right, here we go. I have a lot of screens. We are going to pick the right one the first time this time. All right, let's go. Yeah, so like I was saying, our platform, we are a social marketplace. We focus on making it easier to build communities and improve citizen resilience. Me and my co-founder actually met 5 years before we started this started the program the end of last year. We came from working from data analytics. So I saw one of the questions says if your startup isn't quite ready for the program, and that feeling always is there. You should always still try and apply. But we wanted to take our company to the next level, and it was hard to figure out what that means. We know we could build things, but we didn't know if we were building the right thing. So we put it in people's hands. They say, yeah, we like this. Yes, we know we don't like that. And the whole point of the accelerator is to take what you are currently doing and scale that, helping you understand what your company is missing, what you could be doing better, what you're doing great, and giving you those very key connections, which is what I want to focus on today. So we ended up, before we had clients working for MIT and nationwide building data analytic solutions, but we wanted people to use our product. So we actually ended up learning more about our problem while we were in the accelerator. We started with, okay, we just want to make it easier to connect needs and resources. And then after meeting with a lot of individuals, some key folk, we realized that the biggest piece about it is that the community coordination is made via phone call and email. So what the cohort helped us realize is that our problem isn't that people aren't making connections, it's that the connections they are making are incredibly inefficient, and that sometimes also spills over into misconnections. So then we actually changed our solution from simply being that marketplace to being an entire platform for community building. When we did that, something really interesting happened where we went from increasing the rate of people connecting their needs and resources by about 20% to by centralizing data, the communication, and all those pieces, we actually increased it to 2,000%. So there was quite a difference in just our system after going through the accelerator, understanding what needed to happen. And sometimes, it's through refining your pitch. Sometimes it's through refining your product, refining your understanding of the problem. Sometimes it's even just improving your ability to communicate with your potential clients, potential customers. The accelerator really helps you do all of those things, which ultimately translates into you being able to deliver value to your clients, your customers, and of course the community in and of itself. And that's the biggest takeaway I got from the program, is that through this accelerator, we were introduced to a lot of individuals. Number one, we were able to sit down with the mayor of the city of Houston. We were able to put together quite a few different pilots, and working through some others with Harris County, the Biomimicry Design Alliance, Little Rock ISD, Be Good and Start Small LLC, working with Bread of Life, United Methodist Church. But the biggest jump off was being able to have someone from the city. In this case, we had Mayor Pro Tem Martin sending out message to his constituents, and of course, Mayor Hollingsworth of Hyattsville, Maryland, sending out to her residents that Humanity is a platform that's able to help us connect and coordinate in time of crisis. During the accelerator, no one could have predicted COVID, right? We had no idea that this was coming. And so when it was during our pilot phase, January to June, January, I sat down with the mayor. We met with Jesse. I know you remember some of those meetings, going back and forth, trying to figure out, okay, well, can they work with homeless? Can we do this? What can we do? Ultimately, through COVID, it presented us with actually a very unique opportunity that people needed a lot of specific needs and resources. And just having those connections to the different people in the Office of Emergency Management, to all folks all around the city of Houston and in City Hall, they said, hey, you're the needs and resources guys, right? Hey, well, we got a project for you. Can you get something up and running? And that really was our launch pad to getting started in the city of Houston. Since then, the Accelerators also introduced us. We like to use them as, you know, one of our little press pieces, but they introduced us to some other great people that had some wonderful things to say about us. Additionally, I'm gonna see if I can show this, see if we can, if I can open this. Yes, yes. Oh, wait, it almost did it. I had it. Okay. Let's see if we can. If I can share my screen, and then I'll go here, and then we'll do this. Yes. All right. So this is actually one of the founders of Wiser. We were asked to be on the show Dialogue Houston because of some of the great things that we were doing with the city. I have a couple more photos here. Yeah, so this is one of those meetings that we had with everybody. Jesse, I see you over there. And then I think the one of the most exciting moments we had was this was actually at an ION event where we got to, you know, the mayor, you know, shaking our hand, like we're just, you know, excited. I know I'm smiling real hard, so y'all gotta forgive me, but I mean, it's like these are the kind of opportunities that the ION is able to provide. So I was really thankful for that there. So let me jump back. And I know they talk a lot about milestones, but it's for good reason, which is the whole point of the accelerator in my experience was to move you along this timeline that every company has to go through. Every company has successes and failures. Ultimately, it's what are you trying to do? Where are you right now? What do you need to actually move that forward? And so for us, we had an iOS and Android app. It was kind of trash, but we had it. And you know, within 6 months of being introduced to Christine and according to everybody at the ION, we were able to have a couple of pilots in the city of Houston and through Hyattsville. And because of who we met in during our time there, we got to 15,000 a month in recurring revenue. It's not a crazy amount, but you know, it's better than zero, which is what we went in there with. And so the first investor we actually had for our company, we met through the ION. Heath Butler's group put some seed money in us, and you know that again really helps take us to the next level. And so now we're well on our way to releasing what we're calling you know our 2.0, essentially this new community building platform with a lot of the partners that we've had since we've been in the ION during 2020. As we transition away from COVID, hopefully transition away from COVID, we're now taking all those partners onto a much more scalable platform. One of the biggest pieces is that, you know, don't be afraid to do manual stuff. Don't be afraid to do something that doesn't scale. The whole point is to prove your concept while you're here. And for us, they really helped us understand what it actually is we're trying to do, who needs this in the city of Houston. They have a lot of great partners and connections with, again, the resiliency, Office of Resiliency, the Department of Neighborhoods, Office of Emergency Management, you know, all these different pieces, and they help you say, okay, well, hey, the city of Houston is actually working on a flood mitigation project, or hey, they have a new homeless initiative that you may qualify for. And sometimes it's even grant money. Now, not everything applies to everybody, but it's good to have some people that do care, that are trying to move you in the right spot. And for us, you know, we really wouldn't be where we are without them. Yeah, that's me, that's us. That was my experience. I got 3 minutes left. I told you I wasn't gonna take the whole 10 minutes. But yeah.
So, Ryan, that was fabulous. And just as you're unsharing your screen and we're welcoming our next cohort 2 participant, actually, Ryan's story just resonates because you gave us 3 minutes. I can kind of brag a little bit more about you and some of the other members. Ryan's story really resonates with Courtney and me because that's the ethos of our accelerator. It's coming into the accelerator program And, you know, maybe you think you're not ready, and maybe that's a barrier, a mental barrier, but you just kind of get thrown right in, and we keep you going, we keep you moving, and we keep you kind of, everyone's running their own race. So we keep you on your own path, and we develop a family like that, where he mentioned Wiser was another Cohort 1 member, and their story is actually really powerful as well. But you're meeting the people that kind of help you put a mirror up to your own startup, and you say, well, I really didn't understand the problem that I thought I was trying to solve. I needed to talk to a few more people. And so Ryan really captures that very well. He'll actually be speaking at the Smart Cities Connect conference. That's today, tomorrow, and Thursday. So he is on a panel, and it's just a real testament to his growth, coming in from day one in September 2019 to December 2019, our demo day, to now. So I love hearing that story because it really resonates with us. As does our next speaker, Keith Cole, who is with Waterlens, and his story, it also resonates. I won't take any thunder away from him. He's achieved some incredible milestones that he will share as well. But Keith, why don't you turn on your camera, and we'll welcome you to the virtual stage.
I hate doing it here. That overhead light creates that nice.
You know what? It's 2020. We've all been wearing the same T-shirts.
There's no good angle to sit in, but I'll scoot over here in the corner. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Keith Cole, and Waterlens is a company that our goal is to take complicated laboratory water analysis and bring it out to the field. So instead of taking days and weeks to get your water tested, you can do it in minutes, and you can do it yourself. And so when I think about smart and resilient cities, I think one of the first things that comes to my mind is water, right? Without water, we don't survive. And as more and more of the world concentrates into cities, I think 64% of the world is expected to be in cities in the next 10, 20 years. So you have a extreme pressure on your natural resources. One of those, of course, is water. And so when we look at water, if you look at all the fresh water in the world, only 8% of that water is used for things that we normally would think of, like drinking, showering, cooking, watering your lawn, feeding your pets. 92% of that's industrial use. And so our initial focus has been on that. And we focused on oil and gas and municipals, wastewater treatment water, as well as utility water, any sort of industrial type water. And so through the Smart Cities Resilient Accelerator here, we had some unique opportunities because we had just really been oil and gas up until this point. And we have customers, around the world. We're still small, but we have a large footprint. But we hadn't really gotten into the larger markets. Municipal wastewater is a huge market. It's 4 times the oil and gas water testing market. And so it was a neat opportunity to get into this accelerator and get to that and get access to that and get access to the city to get the feedback on how our technology could actually fit into a municipal government. And so we were fortunate about that time. We were working on some bacteria tests. So our first initial testing is more about scale and corrosion, calcium, chloride, iron, things that would affect a water process, corrosion, things like that, but not really getting into anything around the public health side. But we had been focusing on bacteria. And when COVID hit, we were like, wow, we have a genetic test for water. Let's just go point it from oil field bacteria or E. coli over to COVID. And so we did that and came up with a pretty good test. And that came right as the accelerator was getting into its stride. And we were meeting with the city of Houston. And Jesse introduced us to people over the city where we actually got to get involved in the city of Houston's wastewater surveillance pilot. So along with, you've probably read about it, if you've read anything about Houston, we're one of the premier cities that has been monitoring wastewater for COVID-19. And that's really neat because the virus can take, as we all know, 2 to 14 days to sort of incubate in your body, which means you actually get a 2 to 14 day lead time on increases or decreases in the infection rates of a community by looking at sewage. So we took our system, pointed it towards COVID-19, worked with the city of Houston, and they've got Rice University doing the testing and Baylor College of Medicine. And just every week, I actually get sewage from the city of Houston, and I truck it down to our laboratory in Austin, Texas, where we analyze it. We developed a unique way to approach that. Ours is what they call extraction free, so it's faster and cheaper than existing methods. So we've been able to innovate even on that. And thankfully, through that pilot, we got our very first paying customer from a municipality, and that was Pearland. So we were monitoring also the city of Pearland's water, and that's working very well. And it's really exciting to see how the infection rates that you see in the Harris County websites and the Texas Medical Center correlate very nicely with the infection that we detect inside the water. It's just an amazing thing. And the nice thing about that is, when hopefully COVID is not with us for the next 20 years or 100 years, but there's so much more to wastewater surveillance than that. There's flu, there's polio, lots of other opportunities there. So it's been real exciting. It's something I didn't expect going into the accelerator, was to have such a great opportunity. We're certainly talking with the city of Houston about other ways we can help in more the drinking water side. But this COVID thing just kind of sprang up, and it's nice to have an opportunity to just be dumped in your lap that you're able to execute on. And then recently, another opportunity kind of was just presented to us as well. Local TV station here was Channel 39, and they were looking for some technologies to put on their morning show. The COVID thing attracted them and how that kind of works. And so I got the opportunity last week to spend 4 hours getting up way too early. I think I had to get up at 4:30 to do this, to get ready for this morning show. And we did sort of 4 segments across. I think Christine's going to post the link if you want to see it. Little short 2-minute segments. I took this young reporter on top of a wastewater treatment plant. I'm sure she was thrilled to be on top of a sewage plant. The smell was amazing, as you might know if you've been on one. But anyway, it's fascinating because I think people don't understand what happens to your water. We turn on the faucet, we expect it to be there, and it's not always there. We take it for granted. And then what you flush, what you put down your sink and your showers, your toilets, you don't think about where that goes and what happens to it. So the whole point of the 4-part series with Channel 39 was not just about COVID, but sort of a little bit of education on kind of what happens, where your water goes. One little thing that people may not know is some cities actually can run out of water. Cape Town, South Africa, last year just about ran out of water. Houston is fortunate. We have a very wet climate, so we're in pretty good shape, but not all of Texas is like that. So there are parts of Texas that really have a severe water shortage coming in the next 20 to 30 years as the population really almost doubles in Texas. So anyway, that's Waterlens, and it's been neat to be part of this accelerator. Again, I think you don't go into these things expecting everything that happens. You have a lot of neat surprises that come from the interactions with the other participants, with obviously the people at the ION and the cities. It's been a fantastic experience. So that's my story.
We have loved having you in Cohort 2, and Courtney and I very distinctly remember there was one session when we were all just, kind of doing our thing, and you kind of said, excuse me, I might have to go because I have a really important package coming. And we're all like, oh, great. Like, everyone's ordering Amazon, everything's on delivery. And so, no worries there. And we were like, what's this package? And you were just like, yeah, I've got wastewater coming. Like, I am testing this stuff. Like, it's like, so we love those moments because our startups are so excited about the work they're doing because it is real and meaningful and good work. So you've heard from the startups in our Cohort 1 and 2, some of our showcase startups. And now we'd love to kind of kick it over to our mentor group as well. We have an incredible set of mentors that help us each and every day. And we are a small and mighty team, but our mentor network is the most supportive bunch of people I have ever worked with, really, that are not really my colleagues, but they're in the broader ecosystem, and they're part of the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Accelerator family. And the cool thing about that, we've got a bunch of mentors on as well, and they can maybe introduce themselves in the chat box or talk if they would like to. But the cool thing about that is our reach extends not only in the ION bubble or the Innovation District bubble or with the City of Houston. Our reach draws from the collective expertise of our mentors in our network. So we are extraordinarily blessed to have mentors from all walks of life, all different types of experiences supporting our startups. So one in particular, Steve Jennis, will be sharing a little bit about his updates And maybe he'll talk about, I know there was one chat earlier, you know, am I really ready to join an accelerator? So I think Steve may have one or two things to say about that. So I will turn it over to Steve.
Right. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep. Good. Okay. And in a minute, Courtney, I'll ask to share screen, but I'll chat for a little bit beforehand. Thanks, Christine. Thanks, Courtney, as usual. It's always a pleasure to work with you guys, help you out. Just a little bit on me. I was a mentor for Cohort 1 and Cohort 2. And my personal background is in high tech, mainly in industrial and high performance computing, but in quite a number of areas over 30 years of starting companies, selling companies, acquiring companies, spinning off parts, pivoting. And so I've sort of been there and done that across all the stages of company development. And what I want to talk about this morning is really summed up by unintended consequences, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But unintended consequences are often referred to as negative things, but we've already seen this morning from Ryan Alexander and Keith that they can be positive. You know, COVID has actually given Keith a new business model or a new business opportunity, if not yet a model around water testing for COVID. So we talk about pivoting, we talk about you know, changes of direction, we talk about strategy adjustment, but unintended consequences are part of everyone's life in an early stage company, right? You learn both positive and negative things about business potential and where you're good and where you're not so good, and where the market is going and where you didn't think it would go. So how does that relate to being a mentor in Cohort 1, Cohort 2, and looking forward to continuing? Well, actually, in talking to the startups in the accelerator, I got a lot of similar questions. You know, I focus on business strategy, and a lot of questions were coming back to me around, you know, positioning, competition, you know, marketing, you know, risk management, intellectual property management, and so on and so forth. Raising money, of course, is always an issue. And you know, where to focus is often a key question, not just for a founder who has 101 things to do at the same time, but also for co-founders, partners, employees. How do you share the work efficiently? And in that theme, if you give me the screen share now, Courtney, I can.
Yeah, you should be able to do it with the green button.
There we go. Okay, can you see that?
It is coming. Yep, there we are.
Yep. Okay, Founder's Compass. So what I found was unintended consequence of being a mentor was it actually became a business opportunity, in the sense that there seemed to be a gap in the market in what I call the pre-accelerator stage, you know, for aspiring entrepreneurs, for people who are maybe still employed in a corporate environment, thinking about starting a business, people who were running a side gig, people who weren't yet mature enough to apply to a formal accelerator or to enter into fundraising. And so thinking about this, well, if there's a gap in the market and we've got all these aspiring entrepreneurs who don't know where to turn for help or advice, ad hoc mentoring is of course available through a lot of accelerators or SDOs, startup development organizations. But I felt there was a need for something a little bit more formal. So I talked to 3 other people who are very prominent mentors in their own right. Brittany Barreto, many of you might know Britty. She was formerly you know, a venture associate at Capital Factory here in Houston. She now runs a Femtech forum, and she's previously a founder of a company called Ferrimore. So Brittany is on board with Founders Compass, focusing on fundraising and getting ready to engage with the investment community at all levels. Leela Madden is an IP lawyer, and obviously her expertise is in risk management, not just intellectual property, but in terms of the way you structure your corporation, the way you enter into contracts, the way you engage with partners. So overall risk management. Catherine Brown is a professional sales trainer. So she focuses on sales techniques, marketing programs, marketing campaigns. And last and least, I'm afraid, myself, I focus on business strategy. And if you look on the right-hand side of this page, we focus on very practical takeaways for people we help. I would say help is more than sell to, because we look ultimately to be giving back and paying it forward as much as running a sustainable business with Founders Compass. So we help you validate your business potential, even if it's just an idea, and well before it's even a corporation. We look at best practices for protecting intellectual property and managing business risk, and that's a front-loaded function. You don't want to wait too long before you trademark your brand or you protect your intellectual property, particularly if you're in high-tech development. So this is something that's an early stage concern. If you don't want to run into some horror stories down the road, and Leela has lots of those in terms of people finding their brand is refused a trademark after several years because you didn't do a search early enough on your name or your logo. How to engage with customers to define and test product market fit. That's obviously concerns everyone in terms of finding that magic product market fit that will scale. And so we work through sales programs with Catherine's help and with strategic assessment with my help to do that. Roadmap for building, testing, and rapidly evolving an MVP. Obviously, as you start to enter into fundraising, having a minimum viable product really helps. It's not absolutely essential, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have something to show to investors, whether it's software, whether it's a hardware mock-up, whether it's some sort of other prototype. But getting to an MVP. And then last, but very much not least in this case, a strong elevator pitch in preparation for fundraising. Even if you're going friends and family, it's nice to have a semi-professional pitch to give them not just them, but also yourself confidence in your proposition. And I think, I say that seriously in yourself, because a lot of founders are going to commit many months, if not years of their life, and possibly all of their assets to a startup. And if you don't have confidence that you've got all the bases covered early on, you are taking a huge and unnecessary risk. So that comes back to risk management as well with Leela. So the four of us clubbed together and we created Founders Compass as a startup. Obviously, we're all experienced founders, so we use the tagline "Founders for Founders," and we are based here in Houston, but we are operating virtually, of course, nowadays. So we have global reach, and we see ourselves as a, for want of a better term, a pre-accelerator. So we help people to get ready to apply for Cohort 3, for example, get their act together. And we do that in a number of ways. We have formal and less formal ways of engaging with people, depending on their stage of maturity, their financial resources, their readiness or ability to spend money. So we don't have a fixed price list. We basically say, look, we're here to help. What do you need? If it's free, it's free. If it's an hourly rate, it's an hourly rate. If it's a packaged video or some sort of workbook. We have a strategy workbook that helps people to work out what they have and haven't covered in their business model. It's a derivative of a business model canvas, if you're familiar with that term, a derivative of business model canvas, particularly for very early stage companies. I call it the AP analysis because it covers place, product, positioning, pricing, profit, people, purpose, and promotion. That's the eighth one, promotion. So it's the 8 Ps of putting a strategy together. So in summary, unintended consequence of cohort 1 and to some extent cohort 2 was Founders Compass, and we're doing very well. We kicked off in September. We're still tweaking our model, and we'll go into the new year continuing to add content, both video content, workbook content, face-to-face content going forward. So if anyone knows of anyone who's in that early stage and needs a little bit of help, please reach out to us, go to our website, our social media, follow us on social media, and you will get founders helping founders. So in a sense, it's a way of, as I said, giving back and paying it forward to the next generation of entrepreneurs, even if they still don't know they're the next generation of entrepreneurs. So that's one thing that came out of this accelerator, and as you can see, it was surprising to many of us. But Christine and Courtney, this is partly your baby as well. So please be kind to your children.
Well,
That's it.
Steve, that was a great update. And as you're unsharing the screen, just a note for everybody on the call with us, we create that pathway. So wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, we want to be able to help you. And in many cases, an accelerator might be the next best step, the best next step. There you go, flipped in my mind. But in some cases, we need exactly what Steve and his team have done. And they've kind of looked at the need and they've said, well, how can we maybe create a bridge or a feeder program or help startups that maybe have an idea on a napkin, maybe have some type of rough prototype, but in some of those cases, an accelerator might not be the best next place for you. So we are thankful to Steve for being a part of our family. Yared, I think you wanted to say something. I know we got a bunch of mentors on. We did leave room for Q&A, so we will have 10-15 minutes of Q&A. But I know there are a few other mentors that maybe just want to say one or two things and say hi. So Yared, go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Steve, that was a great overview. I'm looking at your site now, and really that's the beauty of the journey. You know, you really don't understand what can reveal itself when you remain curious and open up to new opportunities like this. So, Steve, any way I can support you, yeah, let's definitely connect. Hello, everyone. I am Yared Akalu. As I mentioned during the second cohort, if you can't remember my name initially, you can always call me Mike. That's my nickname when I'm doing pickup at restaurants. It's very easy. And as a sidebar, my name is very popular in my home country of Ethiopia, and it's as common as Mike. So that's the pun there. I am a user experience designer by background, and I am an entrepreneur. I'm a community builder. I'm also focused on growing a couple of initiatives that I have. But I think it's worth sharing very briefly my journey. When I graduated with my master's in human-centered design from Chicago, I moved to Houston in 2006. And so it was a very exciting time for UX design. Unfortunately, when I moved here, I faced confused individuals who didn't really know what UX was. And so I struggled for that next year. I'm sharing that story because I've really seen the Houston community and namely the startup community really develop into what I feel is like an international presence for the ecosystem of startups and an entrepreneurial mindset, and then embracing the technology and all the skill sets that can help build that resilience. And so for that, I've focused my journey on evangelizing the value of design for business. And any opportunity that I can have like this platform, I'm honored to be a part of, to share my experiences, both in UX and in software design. But here's the nuance that I like to give everyone today. Most people really kind of dumb down UX as software design. And I want to challenge everyone that are building their products and their companies to look beyond product. Because when you're really developing innovations, what you want to do is build that capability well beyond just the initial offering. 95% of innovations fail because most people just focus on the product. So as a user experience designer, I'm available here for the third cohort to help you think beyond that. When you talk about the entire experience, that does also involve a brand, which Steve, you got a solid brand there. I mean, immediately I resonate what Compass is saying for the founders. It also, entails the business model, right? I have a mentor that told me there's a number of rights that need to happen for us to have a shot at success for our startups. Right product, right idea, right business model, right team, right financing, and finally, right timing. So that includes a number of things that I'll be sharing with through the cohort that again, I think can help build more of a robust kind of offering that is understanding what your users really need, both their explicit and unarticulate needs, but then also understand some of those kind of things that bubble up that you don't know that they need or realize. And that's kind of like my really brief introduction. I have two startups. One is called Alcove. I have a freelance platform called I Am the Other 50. And then recently I was hired in as the first user experience designer for Enbridge's Innovation Lab. So I can share more of that as we move forward with the cohort, but just wanted to take an opportunity to briefly introduce myself. So glad to be here.
Awesome. And we are glad to have you here as well. So thank you all for joining. This has been really an exciting time together. We would love to open it up for questions and answers on the application process itself. So I know we've thrown a lot at you. A lot of the startups and mentors have shared kind of their wisdom or their journey and some of their updates, but the Q&A really will focus on the application for cohort 3 itself. So we're here to do Q&A. If you've got another kind of pressing thing to go to, you're more than welcome to drop off if you need to, but this is the Q&A portion. So nothing planned. What we'll do is if you've got a question, you can chat it in the chat box. You can unmute your mic. So if you're not talking, we'll keep the mics muted, but go ahead and unmute your mic if you have a question.